Hi, great to be here.
Hello, Omkar. Very nice to have you here. We want to, introduce you and welcome you to our second version of our new podcast, the second triad of topics, which this time is going to be about AI products and the future of intelligence. That is the title. And that's why we have you here also today, because you can tell us something about exactly these topics, right?
I hope so. It's amazing to be here, and of course, AI has been all the rage, so I'm happy to talk about it. And most importantly, I think Thanos and we've had this conversation for a long time, saying that, hey, we want to do an episode together with you. I think we've been speaking about it for years.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm really happy that it's happening today, together with both of you all, you and Thanos, both of you. And
we're also very happy to have illustrious guests like you here, of course. And as you say, it has been a topic in our conversations for a long time because AI, as we have said also in the past, is not something that's completely new. It's old.
Yeah, it's old, but it's hot.
But now it's very hot, and AI products right now are very hot, and especially Gen AI products, which we'll talk about today a lot, are very, very hot. And maybe we should start with you telling us a little bit from where you come from. What is your background? What have you done up to now, not only in AI, but generally in your career as a tech? And tell us maybe a little bit about what is happening right now in your professional context.
Sure, happy to walk you through a short summary of my story. So my background is a bit techno-entrepreneurial. So the last 12 years I've been in the deepest ends of technology, specifically AI, of course, but also mixed reality, software architecture, mobile technology, and so on. This all started around about in 2009 when I started my bachelor's, and then finished my bachelor's in 2013 in computer science and engineering. And then I didn't have the grades to get into a big four sort of a technology company, not FANG, nothing, right? I had backlogs and I was not employable according to many companies at that time. But you start somewhere, and that's where I started. I started as an intern at a very early stage startup. Basically, it was my first company, and I was the first employee of this company. So we were each other's firsts.
Very, very interesting.
And it was great and not so great for the same reasons, right? So, but I got to learn a lot of things over there. It was in logistics. So it was back in 2013 we're talking about. It was about using intelligent algorithms to route supply chains, truck drivers, using offline navigation on mobile devices, and making sure that they work in hostile conditions, essentially, in India, in local languages in India. So that was sort of my first gig. So it was a lot of things that I got to build by myself without any external guidance. Made a lot of mistakes over there, of course, as one does, but got to tackle very hard problems very early in my career, and that was great.
Was there any AI involved already in
Yes.
that part? Yes.
Indeed. We had something what the company called GeForce routing, which was basically it was a heuristic based system that built routes based on we had a clustering mechanism which we did for using the routing plus pathfinding algorithms. And so there was it was not a straight sort of shortest path finding, but there was also a clustering mixed with pathfinding, which made it complex.
Right.
And then the paths often change because you have to get in real world data from whether the road is still working, whether the driver is still there, whether the delivery still makes sense to be made, these kind of things. So you had all of the planning had to evolve real time as data changed. And technology infrastructure wise, there was not a lot of things that were available to have all of this real time data come in. And even though it was a very difficult problem to solve, we eventually ended up solving it. So that was, and then there was a patent that the company had on it, which I also got to work on. So that was great. That was really a lot of things that I got to work on at the time. Now, parallelly, I had worked on a bachelor's project on AI agents in 2014.
which was a thing. And I remember also because we started talking about it in my studies in Thessaloniki already in 2009, but it was very theoretical. Like I remember some very cool professors doing that and touching upon it, and everybody who was doing like was super cool, but they saw no like real applications. And then like 5 years later you say it was something that already touched down, but 5 years later, right?
Yeah, 5 years.
Do you want
I
to
don't know.
explain a bit in layman term what is AI agent to our
Sure.
viewer?
Sure. I mean, I can start with what this paper was about, right? So maybe I'll start with why I started doing it. So I was playing this game called Mass Effect. I don't know if you have heard of it or have played it.
I think I've heard of it.
It's it's essentially like it's space plus intergalactic travel, faster than light travel,
Okay.
space civilizations, blah blah blah, and it's like a trilogy, like all good things. So so in Mass Effect, of course, humanity has first contact with aliens, blah blah, and then there is a robotic race, that a synthetic race essentially, and the way they're architected in the sense is that there is a central intelligence that every unit is connected to, and then whenever one unit goes out of the network of that civilization, it comes back with new knowledge, but then the whole sort of race evolves with that information. So I think I found that concept pretty interesting, and I said, why not try building a mini V0 version of something like that? And that was sort of how it started. And then what I ended up doing was I ended up connecting a bunch of Android devices to each other, and the Android devices basically saw what was in the real world in front of them. So they captured data from the real world with their cameras, and then they used basically image processing algorithms to understand attributes of what they're seeing. And then if the unit itself was able to identify that object, it would identify it based real time. If it wasn't, then it would ask its peers, saying, hey, I've seen this, do you guys know anything about this? And then if one of the peers would have experienced it before, then this new unit would also naturally learn from it and be able to identify it. And in a way, after 10 years later, I would realize that that's also how humans learn, right? Humans learn from each other primarily. There's a social intelligence, sort of hive mind almost, to society that actually is what it's modeled after. This was implemented and this was working and in offline sort of a setup with Bluetooth networks and mobile devices, Android devices. This was 2013, super early. And this paper was also published in the International Journal of Machine Learning and Computing eventually. And then I presented it in Paris. That's how I actually arrived to Europe in the first place.
Right.
And then Berlin happened 3 years later.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the beginning of my stint, let's call it, in AI. At the risk of sounding arrogant, I was doing agents before they became cool.
Right.
So
Of course.
Before it was a thing, yeah.
before it was even a thing, right? But yeah, anyway, but that was like always like a side thing. It was like out of interest. I was always interested in like the science of and the ability of humans to transmit complex information to each other. I think that's very not unique, but I think that's very special among humans, and that's something that I was always fascinated by.
And of course, it's like the basis of AI agents and every other kind of agent, that it's about a network of units, let's call them, which communicate with each other and collectively come to a solution, not just one monolithic algorithm or software which solves your problems just like that.
Okay, so it's not only one system, but like multiple systems talking to each other, exchanging knowledges or informations, and then
exactly, which is very
or like recognize a special pattern.
Exactly, and bringing their own expertise, each one of them, because as we know it, like when you're trying to solve a complex problem, let's say you want to build a building, right? Even that, you need different expertises of people doing different things. Some people have to build, some people have to do the hydraulics, some people have to do the design of the whole thing, some people have to do just the planning. You cannot have just one thing which is doing everything. Like even with people, that doesn't work. And for AI, it only works if the task is very specific. So if it's only about playing chess, well, yeah, sure, you can have like one agent doing it, right? More or less.
Indeed,
But-
indeed. I mean, I think of it in the sense of like the example that you gave me, that makes absolute sense, right? Like build a large project, let's say. But even if you boil it down to a very simple task, like literally scoring goals in a football goalpost,
Yeah,
as a
it's
team.
more complex than you think. Yeah.
Right? It's the task is simple, quote unquote, but there are many obstacles along the way, right? And then you can't have all goalkeepers in your team. That's not going to work. But you also can't have all strikers in your team. That's not going to work either.
Yeah.
You can't have all midfielders. You need a team of specialists that is able to communicate well with each other through some sort of a central language or backbone, let's call it. And in the end, that's how I think about it, right? It's just you're passing information, which in this case is the ball, to each other, making sure that the right passes are made at the right times to the right people, and you're still able to deal with obstructions and any other friction points that may come along the way or unexpected situations, and still sort of recover from setbacks, and still eventually have this pathfinding approach towards striking your goal in your net, or the opponent's net rather. So even here, I think of these as individual specialized agents, even though they all look similar and maybe wear the same clothes, but are still specialized sort of in each.
They're playing in the
role.
same team, but they have different processes, because the processes that have to work together are several, but the goal is one. Right?
Exactly. And of course, you can apply sort of the same analogy to, of course, buildings, like you said, Thanos, and more complex things than football or basketball. But I think principally that's how I see it. Yeah.
So afterwards, after 2013,
after 13 and 14,
I remember something about also games, right? When you came to Berlin, that's I wanted to know if there was any AI involved there, because when you came to Berlin, you told us about the 2 games that I think it was 2, that you had already developed yourself and had a lot of users. And I remember being like really impressed by that. I was like, wow, look at that. He's just coming now to Berlin. He already has like two online games like already done. What am I doing with my life? At least I had my PhD back then. So I was like, sure, I'm doing my PhD. That's what I'm good at. That's what I'm doing. It's okay. But it was very impressive, you know.
Thank you. I mean, for me, it was just something that I did because I enjoyed it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been a gamer since I was a child. I think similar to Thanos, right? And I was always fascinated by video games and this sort of the whole strategic aspect of things, but also the action aspect of things. And I said, why not try creating a game? And one of the apps that sort of came through was, it was my first Android project. So it was like my first app, right? Hello World app. And Android was like new at the time. There were not so many mobile engineers back then. 2012, 2013 we're talking about. There were a few thousand apps more or less on the Play Store. So like blue ocean, right? And I said, let's just learn how to build an app. Let's just keep it super simple and let's just see what comes out of it. So I built a Q&A, question and answer sort of an app. Started there, like super simple, like offline, mobile only sort of, it was almost like an IQ test sort of a thing, linguistics, mathematics, logical reasoning, spatial reasoning, these kind of things. And then I put it up on the Play Store, like there was nothing to lose except for $25 to get on the Play Store.
Well, it's not a lot.
For a student, though, it was a lot in India, right? So
in general, though, it's a relatively, I think it's not like thousands of dollars, which would have
it was
made
1 month of
impossible.
pocket money.
Yeah, for sure. They didn't want all the students everywhere in the world also just flooding with their apps, right? But maybe
there were not so many developers. There was
But
not
I
so
can
many
imagine
things.
now it costs more than 25 euros.
I don't know. I've moved away from mobile apps. We'll talk about that later. But then I put it on the Play Store, and then when you put something up on the Play Store and you ask people in your network, say, "Hey, I've done this," and you're super proud of it. It's your baby, but that's when you really know who your real friends are. And then like absolute strangers will download your app and rate your app, but even your closest friends sometimes won't do it. And then you're like, No, I'm kidding. But in the end, like I got to learn sort of this aspect of things as well. Like, really putting yourself out there, being in a vulnerable position to hustle a bit, and make something out of it, right? Like you put in effort, put in a bit more to see where it can go. One thing led to the other, and then one day I got 100 downloads, the other day I got 50. I'm like, okay, that's it, and then 25. But then something clicked, and then went from 25 to 50 to 200 a day to 300, 700, 1,300. And at the peak, I got like 12,000 downloads in one day.
Wow.
That was
impressive,
yeah, it was, for me, it was like, this is unreal. And then I saw this Google Analytics dashboard. And then every morning before brushing my teeth, I would open my computer and see how much catching there was. Because there was something
that is the like for the geeks.
Yeah, there was some
up.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was like, I got lucky because I started early, and I think if you have the right title, I think you also get the right SEO and the people downloading, right?
Yeah.
And I think I got super lucky, and at some point it crossed like 5 million downloads over 10 years since launching it across 180 countries in the world, and then like 50,000. I don't know. It's dead now, but then I kept building it, and then it started with just a simple offline to a backend to then collecting all of these millions of data points of people using the app. There was also quite a bunch of other metadata points that we also got to see over there. I got to see it. It was a solo project always. It was a sort of weekend, evenings project. Thanos has seen a lot of evenings
exactly
of me working on this project. And then eventually it became a real-time sort of brain and puzzle platform, right? Where you could compete with each other on these quizzes, essentially. And then there was enough data to build like a simple fuzzy model for classification, essentially. It was a classification model for questions, difficulty calibration for questions. And the questions became adaptive, in the sense that if the first 5 questions you did not so well, then the next 5 questions would be relatively easier, but then you would score less for those easier questions. So these kind of things, I'm like,
It sounds a bit like Who is the Millionaire, or Who Becomes the, this TV show?
Yeah,
with
exactly.
The quiz and
Exactly. But then for me, I gave this graduate record examination, the GRE, that you do for university in US, masters. And then they have this adaptive sort of questionnaire system. And I'm like, let's try it out. Let's try to build it, right? And then, it was... At some point, it was on autopilot. Like, it was making enough money to sustain itself. And then I felt like at that point, I'd beaten the game. It was like, there is nothing more that I can do to optimize it. Eventually, there was, at that scale, there was a differential of €1, like, plus or minus.
Yeah.
And you can't optimize the system more than that as a hobby project. And at that point, I stopped. I'm like, I need something more. But this was always a side project. Along the way, when I moved to Berlin, so after this logistics company, worked on also another real estate company where I got to work on some real estate projects, some VR over there as well. And then I moved here to Berlin. Zalando got me here. And Zalando was nice. 40% discount on shoes is amazing.
Yeah.
But, but I think it was a bit too big at that time for me, and I wanted a bit more of a challenge in 2016 when I moved.
But
here.
nothing with AI over there, right? It was more like just Android development, basically.
Mobile front end sort of engineering. Nothing AI over there. Then I moved to N26, which was again, I was the third mobile engineer over there in a team of 150 people at the time. And N26 was in this growing phase at the time. And then I joined as a senior engineer, and then as a third engineer, mobile engineer. And then in 4 years, I left as the head of mobile of 65 engineers across Berlin, Barcelona, Vienna, and New York. So, and the company had grown from like 150 people to 1,500 people. So like 10x, 15x growth in like 4 years. So it was like... You get stretched in all directions, and you get, of course, crazy amounts of real world mistakes that you learn from, but also just like crazy growth because of that. And then in 2020, I said, all right, cool. I mean, I feel like I always had this entrepreneurial bug in me. Now is a great time to start something and solve a real problem, because COVID had hit at the time.
plus something digital. That's what I wanted to say also, right? Not going into whatever I would have to do with like real interaction with people, but something would be online, a digital project, which brought also your experiences from mobile development like very nicely in.
Indeed. And for me, it was like, it felt like I've always been a problem seeker and therefore a solver. And when COVID hit, like, when the floods hit, the shit flows, right? You see everything that broke.
Yeah.
And you're like, great, awesome. This is like an amazing moment where now you can see what to solve and what strikes, like what gives.
Totally. Normally it's difficult.
Yeah. And then coming back to what I said about me being super interested in the ability of humans to transmit information to each other, I felt education was what I wanted to build in, even though I had zero experience in professionally. So then that was sort of the start of my entrepreneurial journey, where I started building a team, a company. And in the meantime, I was also consulting on technology strategy at other companies like HelloFresh, where I helped the CTOs and the VPs of engineering on scaling their teams from, again, 10 to 100 engineers roughly, and then helping them keep everything together and not break things, right? Like processes, tools, infrastructure, everything. My first sort of real serious entrepreneurial thing was to help educational institutions conduct high stakes assessments from anywhere in the world. Because when COVID hit, you couldn't do exams anymore. You could do lessons, but you couldn't do high stakes exams without having people cheat and having everyone pass. So I'm going to keep this short, but essentially we built a system that essentially could capture what was happening in that examination session using an IoT approach. So using all mobile device sensors to understand what the user is doing, but also what's happening in the environment. And it was like borderline spyware, but with consent.
It's proctoring basically software, right?
Exactly, but most proctoring systems still today are only vision based, and they're website based. We were doing what I think today very shifty shit. Not shifty, but it was like I think it was really interesting to see what kind of signals you could extract from the real world.
Exactly. And then comes the AI there, though, because I remember that we talked about that, and I helped you also a bit with the machine learning and AI part, because you have all this data and somehow you need to make decisions based on them.
Exactly.
So we're coming to what we were talking about, AI products, basically, or AI processes or sub-modules being built into projects in order to achieve some tasks. But still, I think even there, the Gen AI hype that we have right now still hadn't hit, because that was end of 2021, if I remember very well.
It was 2020. When I started, right? So, and I think we started working in 2021 when we assembled the team. So it was like early 2021. And so there was a bunch of AI. So it was like the AI was more like traditional AI, but what we saw was that we were taking a tedious workflow that would otherwise take while and effort and cost, and really like using AI to do the hard heavy lifting that otherwise would take more time and effort. So there was always a human in the loop. Like we always built with a human in the loop sort of approach since then. And then what we realized was that maybe this wasn't the solution that was having the natural pull from the market. Because students hated us, absolutely. But what we also realized is that maybe we were bringing transparency to a system that needed it but didn't want it. So then we put it aside, and then we basically flipped the system inside out. And instead of using all this information about the environment to police students, we use this information about the environment to rather transform the environment into a real world science lab. That's how Myracle was born. And then you sort of took this information and you made it more fun, engaging, and gamified for the end user. And you use modern technology. Again, AI inherently is used in image processing and XR, like mixed reality. There's a lot of real-time sort of image processing and signal processing happening there. Like sensor fusion happening with image and accelerometer data, GPS, there's a bunch of things. And for me, it was like, Myracle was more about making science for the modern teenager understandable and accessible and actionable. Because science is done, it's not read and like you can't understand science just by reading it.
Yeah.
You really understand science when you do it in the real world. So that was what Myracle was about: mixed reality, active learning experiences.
Experiment.
Experimenting, exactly.
Yeah.
So imagine, like, since we're doing a podcast, right? What if you could see how sound waves travel?
Yeah. That would definitely give you an edge on understanding what actually is happening with sound.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, like, we know that sound travels in the Earth's atmosphere, but what happens if you dunk a waterproof speaker, underwater? What happens?
Yeah.
Right? Or what happens if you drain away this water and the Earth's atmosphere? What would happen to sound waves?
Yeah.
So these kind of things we're able to visualize for students and actually help them flood their literal living rooms with water and then physically go underwater with their devices to see how the difference is. So these kind of things. So we were engaging visual, auditory, haptic, and kinesthetic senses to then help students and people in general learn about complex, abstract, invisible science concepts. So a lot of AI over there as well in the application layer of it. And then, of course, on the data side of it as well. And Myracle right now is on autopilot. So villages and schools and villages in India use this technology to transform empty classrooms into real-world science labs. And Myracle eventually, as we discussed also before, ended up on Shark Tank India, and where we dunked the sharks underwater to show them how sound travels in air, vacuum, and water. And last year, I started another company called Kai. And Kai I'm going back to my roots, like going back to solving problems for the software industry, essentially. And while Myracle was like completely bootstrapped, like it was my own money, solo founder, like, yeah, it was rough, but it survived after 5 years through 2 wars, a pandemic, and an economic downturn.
So, yeah.
It also got recognition from schools, from governments of Germany, India. Meta gave us a grant to use this technology for social impact. So it was like a lot of things, but in the end, it was a social enterprise, right? It was never gonna be maybe like a crazy commercial success.
Profitable commercial success,
Yeah, so right now, Myracle is on autopilot. We have a small team, 2 people that run the show, and I'm just steering. But my full focus right now for the last 1 year has been on Kai. And Kai is the opposite of Myracle. It's like, I'm doing this with my co-founder, Leonardo. Incredible guy. Completely sort of opposite profile of mine.
Or complementary, you would say, right?
Complementary, yes, but also like a very different kind of person, right? And which is what makes it such a rich team.
Of course, you need people to spar with, right? Otherwise, there's no like real novelty coming out of it.
Exactly. You need not opposing necessarily, but like not exactly overlapping personalities, perspectives.
Yeah. Like someone who tells you that you're doing wrong.
Like someone who calls me out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because when you're king of the hill for 4 years of your own company,
you don't see some things, right? You get this tunnel
have
vision,
blind spots,
right? Yeah,
you have absolutely have blind spots.
And then even if somebody comes and they call you out on something, even if they're wrong, it doesn't matter. At the end, the important thing is that they called you out, right? So it makes you rethink about your own assumptions and everything, which is exactly what you need.
And you go back and forth, so that for me with Leonardo is like incredible. And Leo's background is also just stellar, right? So while I'm this total nerd, Leo played pro basketball with the Italian national basketball team for like 10 years before he went into then business, sold software at Salesforce, Deloitte, and then eventually came into the entrepreneurial world where we met. And so we have this sort of crazy Shark Tank featured team plus like Olympic Games featured team, like pro athletic team, and sales sort of a team. So it's like a very strong team that we have. And then we decided, let's just go back to the first principles, right? Let's figure out what the trends are. Let's figure out, let's think workflows, right? And then I chose the workflow that I knew best, which is building and shipping software to production to millions of users. And one thing that I saw was that building software was never the bottleneck. Never. it was always making sure that everything that is being built on top of each other, all of it is working as expected at the end of that merge.
Right.
That was always the bottleneck. And
Sure.
I saw that at N26, I saw that at Zalando, I saw that at HelloFresh, I saw that at my own companies.
I think it's exactly what we have been seeing in our respective roles all around in our companies. The same, right? It's easy to just say, "I'll just write 10,000 lines of code." You'll find somebody to do it, right? You'll even find a lot of people to do it quite well.
Yeah.
But then you put it all together. Does it work? Like, does it work as the customer, as the end user is supposed to want it to work?
Yeah.
That's the tough part.
Exactly. And that's something that for me, I've paid to solve this problem. I've been paid to solve this problem as an individual and as on a strategic level. And I've dealt with this problem like hundreds of times in my 12 years. So I said, I think this is the problem that we should be solving. It's not a new problem. It's one of the oldest in software engineering.
Right.
But what we saw was that with the current advancements in AI, you are able to bring a new solution, an opinionated solution, dare I say, to one of the oldest problems in software engineering. And that's what Kai is doing. Kai comes from quality assurance with AI, QAI. And that's what it does. It basically automates software testing, which is taking up almost 50% of the development cycle. 1 day of building features almost always equals 1 day of testing those build features. So that's the dirty secret of software that most people don't see.
And this is AI powered as well, in the sense that it's using, I don't know how much you can say or you want to say like publicly and openly, but it's using AI and Gen AI to help automate some parts of that process. Which brings me to, I wanted to lead with this in order to go over to a first other question, because what we wanted from you to understand today, not only for your product, but about for other products that you have seen around. Why did you choose this one? What role does AI play into that? And why is that a good use case? And why are other use cases not so good, or they're not getting so much traction, for example, and they're not blossoming into good products at the end? That's a little bit the focus that we want to have today.
Yeah. I think it's a very good question. Right? There are many layers to it. I'm going to start with the first one. I think so. A large part of the costs of most AI solutions, all of them, to be honest, all of the AI solutions right now are VC subsidized right now. Right now,
it means that they are not making money independently.
Yeah, and also like the costs of LLMs are highly subsidized right now.
Wow.
The amount of, I think this is easily gonna 3x to 10x in the next couple of years. The fundamental cost of what you pay to run like LLM queries, basically LLM prompts right now. Token costs. Right now it's all subsidized. So, and secondly, most AI companies right now, in order to lure in early users, are giving $20 whatever euro per month sort of plans for infinite tokens. I think that's just an expensive funeral of all of these companies, because there are some power users that are spending upwards of 4,000 euros worth of tokens in a day on those 20 euro plans.
Yeah, and there are a lot of other users who are just spending nothing. So
who are not using anything, but then that's still a crazy imbalance. And that's where that's where you see where it's like, how does this go ahead cost wise? It's a very difficult question. Now, from a value perspective, are we able to solve a problem today that humans need tremendous amounts of time, effort, and focus that they do not have? And is that a burning enough problem? And how do we know if it's a burning enough problem in business? There are only three things that you need to think about. One is, will this solution bring us more money? Second is, will this solution allow us to keep keep more money, basically, like keep our existing customers and
Happy,
therefore get us more
yeah.
money? Or does it allow us to serve more customers with less or save money? If you're able to answer these three questions with any AI solution, then you have a case. Otherwise, you don't have a case. I think and that's why education is such a difficult business, because you
Right.
can't correlate it, even though it's run like a business in many countries. It's very hard to correlate anything to this sort of aspect. But in software, you can do that. Like, software is still fuzzy. I think it's very hard to equate software productivity to revenue. But I think there is a strong correlation between the amount of features and the speed of feature shipping that you can have to the amount of revenue that you can make. So that's like, as a CTO, for example, or as whatever, a tech leader, every release you have a dilemma. The dilemma that you have is, even if everything is built and not tested yet, is it like, should I ship now without testing and risk $1 million bug, or should I delay and risk losing the market?
Yeah,
It's a dilemma that you face every release, every 2
exactly.
weeks.
It's true. I mean, to be honest, this dilemma is also evident, I think, in
Always
some
a
other.
business decision, yeah.
It's always a business decision, more or less.
Yeah,
But in this specific market and about software, it's very crisp.
exactly.
Let's say. No?
And now, if you look at what the trends are in the industry, it's becoming easier and easier to ship software. And which means that if you delay and risk losing the market, you don't risk losing the market, you lose the market. And that's the tricky part.
Yeah.
At the same time, you can't risk $1 million bug either.
No. So you have to find ways to
Balance both.
balance both and fix things while being there in order to make the $1 million bug maybe be $100,000 bug.
Or you find a way to take away half of your release cycle with the right tooling around it. And that's where Kai comes into the picture, for example. That's exactly what we offer to our customers, that their engineering teams are not losing valuable time and focus on ensuring that what they've built actually works, but they just focus on building, because then we are the ones who are their safety net before going live.
So maybe that brings
Okay,
us to
so-
your question about the
yeah,
revenue streams,
yeah,
right?
exactly, yeah, so
That's what I wanted to say.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's a good marketing, by the way, about your software and about your AI product. But let me ask a really hard question as economist. Yeah. So what is exactly your reference stream? How do you make money? So
And not only that, but I would make the question a little bit wider and say, so you kind of gave some hints about how you manage your revenue stream right now, but what do you see if you could generalize for AI solutions? Not only for software, but also maybe some others. What are the things that produce a revenue stream, and what are the other ones that you say, forget about it, that's not going to happen?
what could be a good revenue stream for an AI product? So one is first specific for Kai, and the other one is generic for all the other possible product.
Right. So I think, very simply speaking, okay, let's talk about general products, then we'll go into AI products, and then we'll talk about Kai. Maybe that's an easier way of going about it, right? So I think, generally speaking, if you're doing a job for someone, are you able to help them save money to get the same job done with any other alternatives? If the answer is yes, then you can take a fraction of that saving. Very simply put, that is how people make money, and companies and products make money, right? Very generally speaking. With AI, the biggest advantage that you're really getting is you're saving on computing time in general. And why I say computing time is because if you were to do it manually, you're still using meat computers.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Do you mean it metaphorically or
No, quite literally.
You mean it literally? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
manpower.
Yeah.
Quite literally, right?
Processing time, let's call it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And meat computers are great
Meat computers are great
at some things,
Yeah.
but they're not so great for some other things. Synthetic computers are great at some of the things that meat computers are not so great at, and are terrible at some other things that meat computers are very, very good at. So I think the sweet spot is finding the parts of a workflow which require meat computers a lot of time and effort because it's not optimized. The task is not optimized for the meat computer, but it's optimized for a synthetic computer without losing accuracy and gaining speed.
Okay, so something more like repetitive tasks.
Yes, so repetitive tasks.
And have to be precise and accurate.
Exactly, and this is where
like sensors measuring,
for example,
and that's
for example. But I think in general, that's what you're offering. You're offering a compute offload at a fraction of the cost, if possible, to do the job in much faster time, with a very high level of accuracy and volume.
That's a very interesting definition, I think, and now I'm thinking a little bit about this study that came out just shortly before from MIT, which is talking about the ROI of Gen AI and LLM-based products in the market at now. And what I found more interesting, because we're more or less talking about industries and use cases, that what you are saying, for example, for me, it correlates very well with something that was mentioned in the study, namely that, for example, companies in the marketing and communication area, because they have a lot of this processing tasks, let's call them like creating and sending out mails or creating and sending out some kind of content to reach out to users, right? These are exactly this kind of things that can be automated, but by Gen AI right now. And this leads to them having actually like products, AI products, which are going into that direction, are able to produce a revenue stream. They have an ROI, they are an investment, but let's say the most easy example of that is that you get a nice text generation software or an image generation software. You pay for that, but you get much more bang out of your buck what you put in there, right? Because you are able to send out millions of mails and not just 10,000 mails. Others are not doing so well in that area, and my thoughts on the matter is that for some other processing tasks which have to do with productivity, for example, and not only in coding but also in other things, it takes much more time to build these processes around them being used with AI, right? And my question to you would be, do you see other areas and use cases apart from coding that have to do with productivity that this kind of saving processing time could also work for AI? I think this is a question that everybody's thinking about when they're saying, okay, where should I put my money in AI right now?
The other category they mentioned was the professional services. Yeah?
Right.
So the best example would be like accounting. So like doing the books. Yeah. And so this is a very strict and very established process, and part of it can be very well automated by the machine, and of course you still need some human input of it, but it's very controlled. It's like a controlled environment. And I remember that when we had a podcast about that was about outsourcing and economy or something, and I said that in that podcast that many of these already outsourced jobs can be or partially be automated, which is exactly the professional services. There's a lot of shared services with at a corporation. They are outsourced to, all these tasks are outsourced to another country, like for example Eastern Europe or even like India, like customer service, for example. And so I think these are the fundamental, because these are they are human interactions, but it's not as fundamental as that you have to be human to do it.
Very well put.
I would say that's
Indeed. I mean, as long as there is a task to be done but doesn't need to be done by a human, I think it's a good use case. But for example, let's go back to the marketing example that you spoke about. I'm not a marketer by any means, but I've worked very closely and as a marketer for my companies. And for example, one of the things that we saw was that, yes, in theory, you can generate a lot of messages at scale. But unfortunately, all of those messages are very clearly
chunky,
AI generated, and they're like a slop. AI slop is what it is. And in the end, yes, you can send 1 million emails, but then if the reply rate drops because
Yep.
it's AI slop,
Yep.
is it useful?
No.
Is the question.
Probably not, yeah.
So I think that's what we've observed as well. Like, of course, one of the first things that we tried was something like that, and most people tried it. But in the end, what we saw is that what you ended up doing was actually making the problem worse. Like, you already had a low reply rate for emails, and therefore you just increase the volume so that at a 0.5% reply rate, you got some leads. But now if that 0.5 goes to 0.1 because just more people are pushing AI emails into your inbox, the inbox is basically history. Like, nobody's looking and replying to people in their inbox anymore. So in the end, yes, you can get the job done, but is the job or should the job be done in this way anymore is also the question to be answered.
I think this is the important question. Like, one next thing that I would ask would be, what is the way to do a well commercializable product out of it? And I think this question, the answer would give you exactly what you need to know about that, right? Is it a task that you can automate in a way that it can actually save money or bring you more customers, and not, I mean, when you use AI, of course, right? And not if it's something that you just put AI on top, it makes it being on steroids, but it still doesn't solve the original problem that your emails are not reaching anyone, right?
Yes, and that brings me to, I think, what the world is moving towards. Like, we've had SaaS for a long time, right? People keep saying SaaS is dead. I don't know if SaaS is dead or not, but in the end, people, until the last 10 years, or let's say until the last couple of years, more or less, for the last 15, 20 years, people have been buying tools. And then people, like humans, are using these tools to produce outcomes. The shift that is happening is that now people want to buy outcomes. So you go from SaaS to like software as a service to outcome as a service. So in the end, you're
You
paying
mean like the result?
the result.
The result, yeah.
Okay.
Indeed.
Okay.
So not the tool. You don't
They
care
don't
about
care
the tool,
about how you do it, yeah.
right? You
Okay,
care
okay.
only that the job is done reliably, and that's where the money is, I think.
That resonates very well with what we have said also previously in conversations about. So I think it's more about quality, which is a difficult, like quality outcome, which is difficult with AI sometimes. That's why it doesn't work, because a lot of it, unfortunately, if you don't have people in the loop, humans in the loop, it's being slop at the end. So you can't really use it just to automate things just out of the box. And the second is what you say with outcomes. I always thought that, for example, the car industry, interestingly enough, already uses AI for several things, right? But they don't tell you necessarily, or they don't go the full advertisement mode with it's an AI powered out car, or you have AI something. It's embedded in their systems,
Exactly.
and it
working.
makes them better, and it's working, right? It gives you a better driving experience, which is the outcome that you want to have.
Exactly.
You don't care that it has AI on top, like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
People are not buying AI because it's AI. People are buying AI because it produces the outcome at a fraction of the cost.
And
Yeah, that's a good line.
And nevertheless, I think what we see right now, unfortunately, a lot of the opposite. Like, everybody is pushing to say, no, what we're doing has AI in it, or oh, it's AI powered, or use AI because it's going to make things better.
Yeah.
And like, I totally agree with what you say. I think that's what the customer expects at the end. But I don't think that most of the companies actually have gotten that message.
Yeah.
They're more like trying to showcase that they are using AI in order to not become irrelevant.
It is
Yeah.
quite, it
Yeah.
is exactly what that is. Showcase.
Is that
nothing
your
more.
opinion as well? Like, from,
It is.
I wanted to ask you also about what you see other AI products and services in the market. Like, is that what you see also happening, and do you see some reasons behind that also as well?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's a shiny wave to latch onto, right? So anything that has .ai just immediately becomes 10x more higher valuation, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think, of course, investors generally tend to be very opportunistic when it comes to trends. And many of them, not all of them, but many of them are not so technical. So it's hard for them to differentiate as well, like what is really technically AI or what is just an AI wrapper. I mean, no offense to AI wrappers. I mean, in the end, if they can do something valuable and useful, then absolutely, why not? At the same time, defensibility becomes difficult as well, because if it's just an AI wrapper, what stops a kid in university from using, Cursor to spin up that exact AI wrapper, you know? So I think the way I like to think about this is that we are in the Carboniferous era of software systems, and in the Earth's geological history, there was a time when there was an abundance of oxygen, like 30% instead of the current 18-19%, which meant that life bloomed, but then there was a lot of M&A happening in the sense that there was a crazy outburst of different life forms, but then they were just eaten very quickly or absorbed or evolved, So I think we're in this crazy Carboniferous era where AI is the oxygen and it's literally available to everyone from in every corner of the planet. So there's going to be a lot of these wrapper or simple layers that will do a job, or have these mini SaaS, micro SaaS sort of tools that will come out that are super niche. But then there's going to be a lot of acquisitions happening, M&As happening, and then eventually this consolidation will happen as well. So I think it's a natural consequence of this availability of AI that enables you to and everyone to build very quickly. But then differentiation in the end is what helps you survive. That gives you an edge in any ecosystem, I would say.
And actually being efficient in solving a real problem.
Exactly. Exactly. And some industries, like you said, for example, accounting. Accounting doesn't need AI to be automated. Accounting is alive only because there is corruption in the governments of today. And
when was there no corruption in any government at any point of our history on Earth?
I mean, they use AI because it's shining, right? So, but I mean, a lot of process is already what you said. In AI wrappers, there are like a lot of machine learning models or algorithm works very well since like 10 years already. And it's not really like what we call generative AI. It's not really like this. That's
it's more traditional like AI and machine learning.
Pre-Gen AI age, and it's working well. I mean, and they don't break, and this is the point, right? People use it, and there's no because you don't need to check with the bot all the time.
Right.
It's not about being interactive with the machine, right? Sometimes you just need a tool that works well, standalone, without humans sometimes.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I wouldn't say without humans, but certainly pre-computes a large part of the job or outcome that then the human can finish off. The human, I think, is still needed for the last mile. Because you can't build 100% correct outcome with an 80% correct underlying technology.
Yeah, sure. True. Definitely,
So that's sort of what we've observed as well with Kai.
But I like the corruption angle, or maybe I wanted to.
That's a separate podcast.
That's a separate podcast, exactly. No, but there are some questions that we wanted to pose, like towards the end, about other external factors. So we talked a lot about the AI itself and the products and what's happening in the business. I'm interested also in your opinion in more external factors that play a role in the development of better AI products. So you have, for example, regulation, funding, research, other intense incentives. What do you think that is happening there or will happen there in the future? Especially if you can tell us more from what you see in Germany and in India, because these two localities very well.
Oh no, wait, we still have to ask him about, or if you can disclose that.
What? About the revenue stream.
About the revenue stream too. Okay.
I mean,
let's go back to that. Sure. You guys always interested just in the money, right? What's the ROI?
That when in doubt, follow the money trail.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So
he always follows the money.
Yeah, and that's then you find all the answers to human society at least. So with Kai, it's very simple. I mean, our revenue model is on our website, right? So we realized very early that any AI powered or whatever AI based solution has to be usage based because it can't be flat, it can't be unlimited, it's impossible, right? It has to be usage based, and that's exactly what it is. For us, it's very simple. The bigger your feature set, the more platforms you're on. We focus on mobile apps, mobile platforms for many different reasons, because mobile is complex. You have the whole Apple, Google walled garden syndrome that creates more complexities. At the same time, it's a growing market. It's like a majority of the world's population uses mobile as their primary computing sort of platform. And the cost of a bad deployment is way higher for mobile because the software is deployed not on your servers that you control, but on every individual user's
end devices.
device. So edge computing is what it is in the end, right? Which means a bad update will propagate quickly to many devices. And what it also means is that even if you rolling back is impossible. Secondly, even if you fix it quickly in 2 hours, it's on guarantee that the fix will be propagated to all the affected devices. CrowdStrike happened. Yeah. So what happened with CrowdStrike last year, right?
True.
Edge deployment killed airlines for like several weeks or several days and weeks. Billions lost in a matter of days. And that's the real cost of and complexity that comes with edge computing and edge deployments. Of course, mobile apps are not as serious as airline terminal software, but the nature of the deployment is similar. Plus, my background has been in mobile for the last 12 years, so it just all comes together. And for us, it's very simple, like the number of features or how big the app is, how many personas are in the app, and therefore how many features and how many journeys and flows to test, how many languages, because and markets in general, like if you sometimes you have different, let's say, features for different markets, and maybe you also want to test, translations and whether like login in English, but Anmeldung in German, for example, right? Which maybe for a small company doesn't matter so much, but for a large company it does matter a lot. So these kind of things we also, for example, do automatically. So that, and then of course how frequently you run it. So some companies want to release twice a week, but they can't because then they just are testing and not building anything. But then with us, they are able to go in that direction. Some companies want to do it once every 2 weeks. Some companies want to do it once a month for whatever different reasons. So frequency and the number of devices that you want to test it on, because with mobile, the other complexity is that what runs on an iPhone 16 may or may not work on an iPhone 10.
True.
And even worse for Android, because there's 20,000+ devices that run Android out there in the wild. So then it becomes very complex to really understand whether your app is working for all your users. So you want to test it on not just one device, but few devices. So then all of these are factors that then go into usage. So the more number of tests you test, the more you pay us. And then in the end, the user is in control of their usage.
So as far as I understand it, it's a little bit of a revenue stream that it's not so like it could be more generalized than just an AI product. It could be also another product which works like that the same way because it's just usage based. And what I'm asking myself though is, are there other AI products which could benefit from that model? I mean, more or less when you're using tokens, even the plans that they have, they are just, let's say, aggregated ways of saying, okay, you have so and so many tokens per day.
Right.
Like it's still usage based in some way, but I'm thinking, is that a business model and a revenue stream that you can have for other AI products? Because maybe they're not so usage based. So as a user, I don't want to go and use what kind of software would I say now? Like text generation software for my legal documents, for example, which would be per document. Maybe I want to go and use it like just like to buy it with a license and that's done. Where's the difference, you think? Like, do you think it's better to do it per usage for other use cases as well, or
it depends
just
on
for
your
that
cost
one?
factors, right? As a business,
Okay.
if your cost is going to be per user or per usage, sorry, then your pricing has to be somehow usage based.
Okay, very good point. All right.
Right? If your cost is one time upfront, then it doesn't have to be like in the old days, right? Like you had whatever these like on machine software, like I don't know, you had Adobe back in the day, Adobe Suite,
Yep.
which didn't have any running costs
Yep.
because they were all offline
Yep.
mostly. And then the only cost that these companies really had was the upfront building cost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then they could like have a perpetual license,
Yep,
right?
yep.
And then that worked. Like that can work. But in the end, if your cost structure
Is per usage, which is
is
the
per
case with
user and usage, yeah.
ChatGPT, OpenAI, like everything that we use right now is like
Per
it
user.
create costs,
Yeah.
a lot of costs per usage. Of course, they have some investment costs and of
Yeah.
course the training costs for
But
the
the
model,
price
blah, blah,
is
blah.
per user.
But the price is per user, and every time you do a prompt, then there are costs.
Yeah,
that
and
come out of
theoretically,
that.
like a cloud, a more like a non-AI, like SaaS,
Yeah.
theoretically, cloud costs also go up by usage. But I think they can be amortized across like users paying a subscription of some sort or a flat fee even or a lifetime fee, whatever. You can amortize them. It's relatively easier to do it, but with AI, it's not. And especially because we really don't know what the real cost is.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. You're making a ballpark estimation about what you would need from a user, and you hope that they're not using it much more than they should.
Exactly.
Right? But at the end, you have to look at your costs and at your money at the end of every year and say, am I more or less in the right ballpark, or should I up my prices? No?
Exactly. And I think the businesses that go in this direction, like again, whether you're producing an outcome or whether you're providing a tool, these two things matter a lot because the price for a tool is arbitrary, more or less.
True.
Right? Like you're just testing the market,
Yeah.
see how much the market can endure,
Can give
let's
you.
say, and then
Yeah.
you keep that price, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But then in the end, the outcome is still produced by the human who's still investing time, effort, money from their part, and then the tool maybe makes it easier or convenient, let's say. But the outcome is still produced by the human, technically. But for certain kind of companies, let's put it this way, if what you're selling is an outcome, like basically in Kai's case, for example, we're not selling AI. We're not even selling testing. What we're selling is release confidence. That is the outcome.
Yeah.
And confidence, unfortunately, is it's on a spectrum. It's either there or it's not.
Yeah.
So it's an outcome in that sense. So in the end, our customer can rest peacefully that night, knowing that Kai has produced the outcome, surfaced the bugs that the user can't log in if you go live with this build, or whatever this feature is broken and that. Or Kai said that, cool, everything works and we can go live with this. And that's basically the outcome. That's the product for us, actually.
Yeah.
Everything else is noise.
Yeah.
And the customer doesn't care how it's done.
That harmonizes well with the what was said in the study about the AI products that are actually gaining traction at the moment are the ones that you can measure their success in a good way, and the way you said it right now. So it's either there or it's not. The confidence, it's a very you seldom have binary KPIs about does it work or not.
Exactly.
Right? And that's exactly what you need.
Exactly.
Because then you can actually know if you are delivering your value or not.
Exactly. I mean, of course, it's hard to have in the end, it's about trust as well, right? Like the customer has to trust that if Kai says that everything is fine, it's actually fine, and the other way around. So then there's false positives, like there's many things, but in the end, that's what it is. But also the other part is Kai faster and cheaper than what I would spend otherwise?
Of course.
And if the answer is yes, then that's also like how much cheaper.
That's always a consideration.
Exactly. So that's the other set of KPIs.
Going back to the humans again, then about the external factors and the development of better AI products. So.
And are you confident that the that using Kai is cheaper than using human for the testing?
I think so. That's the beauty of
Or how
what we
by
do.
how much?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I think everyone should ask this question, right? Every AI company and every user and customer of an AI platform,
That would
product,
be
whatever.
a good marketing right now, you know?
Yeah, and the difference between what we do at Kai and generally how people are looking at this is that we are, like I said, we're producing the outcome and we are owning the entire workflow. And the workflow is not it's not just a tool. We're doing a job. And I think of it as an AI and human, or rather a synthetic and a meat computer sandwich. So the workflow, there are several steps to it, and that's the secret sauce that we have. That, like I said before, that there are certain things that the human brain is very capable of doing that synthetic brains can't. And
So
there
you
are
let them do it?
and there are certain things that like you can't ask a fish to climb a tree, you know.
No.
But if you have a triathlon, it would be great to have a monkey and a fish on your team,
No.
for example. That's not how triathlons work, but you get the point.
Yeah, no, but bringing them both together and making sure though that they give the how do you call that?
You have
Complementary.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. You have a goalkeeper and a striker,
Yeah.
and you don't put the striker to keep the goal and the goalkeeper
And the other way around.
to strike the goal.
They both play their parts.
Yes, exactly. So that, and if you know exactly, if you're deep enough in this, and so I think the companies and the people who have, let's say, an understanding of the human mind to some level, plus an understanding of synthetic brains to some level, and deep knowledge of a workflow, whichever it is. If you have all of these three things, you can do this. But if even one of these things is missing, you're going to lose. That's how I sort of see the whole thing coming together. And one thing that you mentioned also, Thanos, right, about the external factors.
Exactly. Now, we talked a lot about, I saw our discussion up to now about the internal working, let's say, in the business of it, but there are things around that certainly play a role into that, because we're talking in general about AI products right now, right? And that's why I said before about India and Germany, because I know, for example, that, and you said before that Myracle is and was mostly active in India, and I know from our private discussions that it hasn't been very easy to start something, to get it going, and even to sell in the German market or even the European market. I'm curious to see what role do these other things play. Like, did you find, for example, that you get better access to some resources here, but regulation is kind of stifling your business, or does that not play a role at the moment? Because we were saying, for example, in previous discussions, that even if people, for example, right now in AI and generally are skeptical, let's say, about regulation, for example, in practice, for me, as far as I see around in the market, it doesn't really play a role at the moment, because it doesn't stop anybody from trying out anything. The products that fail, they fail because they're just not good, not because regulation stifled them, let's say. It just stops some very specific products, let's say.
I think, to be honest...
But you based on research any more, or also?
I think, so again, it's a multifaceted situation, right? Among everything, I think regulations have the least impact in general, I would say, because first of all, regulation has never been able to keep up pace with technology, especially more so in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we know what happened with GDPR. Like,
Right.
in the end, it just destroyed the internet experience for everyone without actually solving the problem. So, a lot of noise, a lot of expenses, no real outcome. Just actually a worsening of the experience overall for everyone. So I think regulation is a non-factor, at least at the current moment. And I think anyway, companies, startups, ventures have a very high extinction / failure rate, right? Like
The
95%.
Carboniferous era that you said before.
Yeah, so this 95% of AI pilots not working, it's not so surprising to me because 98% of startups die anyway within the first year.
Good point.
So it's not so surprising to me. And I don't know the exact numbers, but I mean, it's not so far from what I'm sure most of the market research will say, I think. I think for any kind of new technology, new method of doing things, you need a market that is flexible, yes, but I think you need a market that has something to lose if they don't adopt it. I don't think Germany is that market.
No, okay. So
Germany has
so adaptive.
adaptability. Yeah.
Okay.
Adaptability is, I would say, one of the biggest factors.
But also skin in the game, from what you say.
Skin in the game, exactly. Like if you have no consequences of not bettering your system, which I think in not just Germany, I think in Europe in general is the case, then you have no incentive to not to improve the system. Like you have because humans hate change. Everyone wants to just settle and keep things the way they are.
Some people a bit more.
Some people a bit more. Exactly.
Yeah, some people
that's
a bit
the real
more.
problem. Very well said. Like everybody has inertia, of course. Like it's basically homeostasis, also, right? If you have a good situation, keep it. Nothing wrong about that. Like nature loves that, right? But
nature doesn't love that. That's what I'm saying. Like it's not natural.
It loves both, right? It loves you keeping the situation that you have, but it wants you also to change if you have to. It's just that these two goals are in clash with each other. It's tough to bring them together.
I think entropy is something on a universal level is a change, essentially, right?
But it's very slow because, I mean, I agree that now in the Carboniferous era you see that more, but people tend to not see changes until they have to, right? And I think what is very difficult is to switch from everything is going well, I'm not doing something, to now I have to do something.
Yeah. So is your back against the wall? Exactly. Is your back against the wall, and only then would you change, right?
Yeah.
And I think in Germany, by the grace of previous decisions, I think for the longest time, people didn't really have their back against the wall, like as a society, I'm saying, right? I'm sure individual suffering is there. I'm not minimizing that, but I think as a society, Germany has been very comfortable for the last 2-ish decades, roughly. And there is no real incentive on a systemic level or on an individual level to really change things, is the general observation, right? Again, on individual levels, I've met very many driven people.
Although I think the situation is changing right now.
But I think, there is a lagging factor,
I
right?
think, that's of course the factor of scale, how much the environment's changing, or let's say the outside world is changing, so it forces you to change, But I think right now people kind of feel it, but they feel difficult to face the situation and also adapt it.
Yeah. So the other thing is about demographics, for example, to add to what you said, Yuri, and I think change makers tend to be younger. And true. I think Germany is the third oldest country by demographic in the world. And I think that's going to be a bigger challenge. And I think German politicians, of course, recognize that. And therefore, I think the intention was to have sort of remodel a bit the demographic. Maybe the approaches can be questioned and can be discussed. But I think that's recognized, that part.
Yeah, median population is actually 46 years old.
46, exactly. And that's also why Myracle didn't work here, because health tech is a way better, let's say, sector for Germany, like an older population.
Yeah, of course.
Than edtech. Yeah. Like here, there's only 7 million people who are like between the age of 10 and 15.
I never thought about this as a dichotomy, let's say, like where you have good edtech, you won't need health tech, but the other way around.
No, I mean health tech you need everywhere.
You need everywhere, but there are some places which need it more.
Exactly.
But I have a question for you. What do you do with Kai? Like, do you serve it here in Germany? Do you want to serve it first here and then otherwise, or do you ship wherever?
No, we have customers everywhere from Uruguay to
Okay.
Germany, Switzerland to Australia.
So you're certainly not putting all your money just in serving in Germany.
And UK. No, I mean, in the end, yes, we have also customers in Germany.
Mhm.
And I think what we've seen is that most of, like, our target audience is a bit more on the scale up side of things.
True.
So not really enterprise,
Mm.
but not like super early stage startup,
Mhm.
somewhere in the middle,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
And that
So
tends
SME.
to be not even SME, more like
Okay.
scale up, like
Oh, okay.
younger, fast moving
Okay.
startup. So it's self-selection
Okay,
for
yeah,
us.
I
And
know
in
what
the-
you mean. You mean not this traditional SME German company.
Mittelstand.
They don't need that. They don't
Yeah.
want that.
But
They don't have the problem.
Smaller
They don't have
companies.
mobile
no, I
apps.
think they do, but they don't realize.
Exactly. But smaller companies which
Which means they
started,
don't.
smaller companies which started from something but are now scaling up and are still young, they do have exactly these problems that they say, oh, we want to scale, but we
Yeah.
don't want our software to be shit every time we ship it, so we need good testing. Therefore,
Exactly.
And I think this is maybe something that you can do also in Germany because it's basically software, and software, to be honest, is also getting shipped out from.
And there are
German
not so
companies.
many Mittelstands that are doing software. You know,
Mm.
there are a lot of Mittelstand that's doing nuts and bolts and like specific parts, but
Yeah.
there's not software there. You know,
Mm.
so I'm sure they have quality problems that then they have to deal with.
Mm.
But I think that's not our market. Like our market is mobile first,
Mm.
fast shipping companies
Mhm.
that specifically are in fintech, health tech, and IoT.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because these are tougher
Yep.
than, let's say, an e-commerce or
Mm.
anything else. I mean, e-commerce also faces this problem. We have some e-commerce customers,
Mm.
but what we're seeing is that it's better fit for complex products
Mhm.
that are very difficult to test otherwise. Like imagine a Roomba app,
Mhm.
right? Like it has this whole hardware integration to test with.
Mm.
And that's extremely difficult to test normally, especially if you don't have test infrastructure.
Mhm.
So Kai already allows you to sort of hook into your test infrastructure with API calls and everything, and then sort of set up the test on your test infrastructure so that you can set up scenarios to test on the mobile app from a user
Mm.
perspective.
Mm.
So these kind of things we've sort of identified. Health tech has the problem because like health tech is often super personalized, right? So
Mm.
you have many different scenarios, schedules, specific situation scenarios. Fintech has a similar problem where trust is a big factor. Like
Mhm.
if your bank showed you your balance even 1 cent off,
Mm.
you would change banks.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
There is no second guess. And the bank wouldn't even know that you changed your banks
Yep.
and why. So the cost of making a mistake for fintech is extremely high.
Mm.
So these are the reasons why we're focusing, like we're solving the hard problems because that's where we think and we see where the money is as well. But they're harder to solve, which allows us to build that moat as well.
Okay. So more fast-paced, changing environment that you constantly need the new software changes for debugging. And
Exactly. So
yeah.
the nature of the product needs to evolve. So the rate of evolution of the product of our customer needs to be high for this to make sense.
Maybe a last question on that. Do you think that I don't want to try to praise even more your product, but do you think that this is a direction for like what you are doing is a very good direction for AI products also in the future? Like, is that where you see it also going? I know we said before the real question is it solving a problem at the end that actually has to get solved?
Yeah.
But do you see in the future more happening in the same direction as you are doing now in your company, or do you see also maybe other areas which are important?
I would say unsexy problems that are tedious are good AI targets.
That's a very good
That's a good line, yeah.
line and Zusammenfassung, like summary of the whole thing. So solving unsexy problems maybe in a sexy way, let's call it like that, right?
No, not even. I mean, you don't care. In the end, you just want the job done.
Right.
You don't care. There's like, for example, building software. I enjoy building software, and there are millions of people who enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
Like it's not a chore, you know. It's not it can be a struggle sometimes, but it's intrinsically it's not something that you don't want to do. You know what I mean? Many people, like software engineers, build not because they have to.
Yeah.
They do it because they want to.
Yeah.
Many times.
But they want to do it in a nice way and without the tedious problems.
Exactly. And I think yes, the outcome is important, but then it's also the process, right? Like the people enjoy that. But for example, testing, I think most engineers and most teams for that matter don't enjoy it.
No.
And I think often the QA engineers are often the unsung heroes,
Exactly. I can say that from my own experience also in such teams and stuff. This was certainly one of the worst parts.
Exactly. So compliance, I think, is another example, which I think can be, oftentimes quality assurance is also part of compliance. Like at N26, for example, the test run report before every release was an important part of showing it to BaFin, saying that, hey, look, we actually have change management processes in place, We tested this, these people signed off, and this is what was tested, this is what is going out, this is what broke, this is what was fixed, everything, right? So producing and maintaining that documentation is extremely hard to do accurately. And if you have the right information model and the right, let's say, team of computers, human or synthetic, and if you can get that job done at, let's say, 10% of its cost in time and money, at the same accuracy or even higher, then you have a case, or a fraction of it, not just 10%.
I would say with that, where you heard it, what to go out and do in the future, right?
Yeah, if anyone of you listeners have any
startup idea.
Like I have a few. I'm not gonna put it out here. I'm gonna give it to the people who may reach out.
Of course. We'll put your contact data on our page.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of ideas. There's a lot of problems that need solving.
This is true. Yue, do you have anything more on your plate?
Yeah, I do. I want to have the last question.
Yes.
Because we talk a bit about the general market situation in Germany. And but I want to ask you about India. How is generative AI doing in India, and what is the outlook?
Right.
What do you think? Where is it going?
Yeah. So I think any AI, generative or not, the moat has always been data, and all of these OpenAIs and Geminis and Googles of the world are labeling their data in India.
Okay. Just sorting the data and
like data labeling, data cleaning, all of this has to be done manually and often. And then so I don't know if you read about it recently, but there's this company called Scale AI, which
so
it was in the news recently. And then basically Scale AI is an API wrapper over human labor, data labeling humans, right? And massive business, like literally every model out there was trained with Scale AI, annotated and labeled data. Facebook invested whatever, a high minority or even a majority, I don't remember, like 49%, something like that, in Scale AI, and they got the CEO of Scale AI, like this mid-20s guy who was the CEO, on the advisory board or whatever of Meta.
Oh, really?
And I think he's also now this. Quite some movement, let's say, happening in Meta with their AI teams, and so there's a lot happening. And then Google stopped using Scale AI for the labeling. So there's a lot happening in that space, I would say. Apart from that, I think there are not yet any notable AI first companies from India. But for example, one of the things in India is that there's 23 or even 26 official languages by now. So which means going hyper local is the only real way to get customers and keep them.
Which makes a use case for AI-based translation, for example, right?
Yes, and then at the same time, unfortunately, most of these existing tools are able to pull off Indic languages, but they're not really specialized there.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of companies that are going in that direction, like Indic language first AI. LLMs, for example.
Oh, okay.
So in that direction, so everything from language to voice to like everything in that direction.
Which is interesting because I think this is a use case that can then, like, if you learn the tips and tricks to do systems well in that way, you can open it up for probably any other language, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
As soon as you have the data, of course, but no.
Exactly, and I think in the end it boils down to having that high quality data ready to be thrown at a synthetic computer to then train a model. But I think that's what I'm seeing is like a very big sort of movement right now. Apart from that, I think right now India has a crazy high consumer market and business sort of burgeoning and growing. As there's upward mobility, in the population, you have a lot of discretionary spending. Plus, like there's a lot of money being, let's say, spent in the economy by people in general. There's a lot of consumer activity, let's say.
Okay.
So there's a lot of B2C platforms and products. Maybe there are already some AI first sort of companies. I haven't seen any yet. But I think right now the movement is more on this, like the data labeling, data management side of things, which is more actually a service than anything else. Manufacturing is also sort of becoming bigger and bigger in India. But I think it's not, I would say, an AI hub yet. Although the rate of change is very high in India. So it's like every 6 months I visit, it feels different. It's like, that's crazy to me.
So it might not be so long until it becomes actually an AI hub.
If you ask me this question in 6 months, the story
might be different. Yeah.
It's moving very fast. I think one advantage that India also has is that, like I said, I think we're not gonna. I don't see us like there are enough people out there who want to talk about AGI for good reasons, but I think we're not there yet. I think it'll take a while, and I think the human in the loop will remain for a while. And I think if you want to build workflows, you want to have an abundance of, let's say, synthetic computers, which is everywhere now. There's no location-based specificity. But then you also need humans and smart, trained, young folks who can work.
Motivated.
Humans who can work with the synthetic computers and actually get the job done. So I think that's where the India opportunity sits, really.
And that answers
So
also our
the
last
future is
question.
a cyborg.
Yeah. I think singularity is already here.
Yeah. It's already here because we're becoming more and more enmeshed, right?
I don't like to put it
That's the
this way,
machine,
but technically Kai is offering a singularity powered product.
It's true, but I mean, I get totally the point, because that's also what some sci-fi and other works have also envisioned for the future. It's not about, like, we see that also, I think, like very also like a dichotomy, like will it come just from the AI or will it come just from the humans? But I think what is really happening is that in more and more enmeshing and bringing together of the two, right?
Exactly.
Merging of human and machine.
Exactly. I mean, for me personally, philosophically, I've always seen that like the magic happens at the intersection of things, and that's why I also chose mixed reality, physical and real, right? And it's the same over here. Like we need to be able to tune a system so that each, let's say, unit in the system is playing to their strengths. Only then can you optimize it.
Which is what nature does anyway, right? Also in ecosystems, right? It doesn't have one type of animal or one type of plant, which is good, that wouldn't work.
Exactly. A team of specialists.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
Well, thank you very much. That was a
very productive,
very inspiring
session,
conversation, I would say. Thank you very much for your insights and all of the information. I'm sure that it is also very, very informative and exciting, as it was for us, also for our viewers and listeners. Yeah, thanks again for being here, Omi, for having you. We will probably come back to you also for several versions in the future when we are, plodding along the next 10 years or something. Let's see where AI is there. Maybe we do one in 10 years and see if some of our predictions like today came to pass or not.
Would love to. Thank you for having me here, both of you, Thanos and Yuri. And
Of course.
it was a pleasure to chat.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.